It was supposed to be a quiet night. On December 20, 1968, high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday parked along a secluded stretch of road in Vallejo, California. It was their first official date. They never made it home. Just before midnight, both were found shot dead near their car. No witnesses. No suspects. No motive. The only clue? The precision. The calm. The way the killer left without a trace. 6 months later, the peace shattered again. July 4, 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Mike Mageau sat in a parked car just a few miles from the first murders. A man approached. Blinding light. No warning. Then gunfire. Darlene was killed instantly. Mike survived, barely. What he told police chilled them. The killer said nothing, showed no rage, and seemed eerily calm as he walked away, only to return and shoot again. 2 attacks. 4 victims. And then, the letter. On August 1, 1969, 3 newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, each received a nearly identical letter. Typed in all caps. No signature. But the words were unforgettable. This is the Zodiac speaking. The letters described the murders in vivid, accurate detail. They included a cipher, a complex substitution code, and a threat. If you do not print this cipher by the afternoon of Friday 1st of August 69, I will go on a kill rampage. This was no ordinary criminal. This was someone who wanted to be seen, to be feared, to be immortalized. And he was just getting started. Police scrambled. Citizens panicked. The press lit up. The Zodiac had introduced himself to the world, not just with bullets but with words, symbols, and a promise of more blood to come. And he kept that promise. By August 1969, the Zodiac was no longer just a killer, he was a brand of terror. And his weapon wasn't just a gun, it was language. Fear became his signature. The 3 newspapers received letters from the Zodiac, each with a piece of a 408-character cipher. He demanded that the ciphers be published on the front page or he would go on a killing spree. The letters weren't wild rants. They were structured, deliberate, written with eerie precision. And they all ended the same way. This is the Zodiac speaking. He signed them with a strange symbol, a circle with a cross through it like the sight of a gun or a twisted version of a peace sign. That symbol would become synonymous with fear. Soon after, a high school teacher and his wife cracked the first cipher. It was chilling. The message read, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." He said he was collecting slaves for the afterlife. But even as the Zodiac shared his philosophy of death, he gave no clue to who he was. No name. No clear motive. Only the thrill of control. He wanted the public to talk about him, to fear him, to look over their shoulders. Then came more letters. More ciphers. More threats. In one letter, he claimed he had rigged a school bus with a bomb and would shoot children as they jumped off. Panic swept the Bay Area. Parents stopped sending their kids to school. Police escorted buses. And yet, no bomb was ever found. Still, his power grew, not just through body counts but through chaos. The Zodiac reveled in the headlines. He toyed with investigators, mocked their failures, and left taunts like, "I am waiting for a good movie about me. Who will play me?" He wanted celebrity. Immortality. Fear was his currency, and he spent it generously. But beneath the taunts was a mind clearly obsessed with codes, rituals, and symmetry. This wasn't random madness. It was a pattern. A message. A game he believed he was winning. And the scariest part? He might have been right. For all the letters, symbols, and headlines, the Zodiac remained a ghost. He controlled the narrative from the shadows. But on September 27, 1969, he stepped out of the darkness, this time wearing a mask. At Lake Berryessa, college students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a sunny afternoon by the shore. A man approached. He wore a black executioner's hood, with the now infamous crosshair symbol on his chest. He claimed he was an escaped convict and needed their car and money. They complied. Then, with brutal precision, he tied them up and stabbed them repeatedly with a long knife. 6 times for Brian, 10 times for Cecilia. Before leaving, the killer walked to their car and scrawled a message on the door in black marker. Vallejo/December 20th 68/July 4th 69/September 27th 69, 6:30 by knife. He signed it with the Zodiac symbol. Miraculously, Brian survived. His description of the killer's voice and behavior added a human element to the monster. He spoke softly, deliberately, and seemed calm, almost robotic. Cecilia died 2 days later. Just 2 weeks later, the Zodiac struck again without a mask. October 11, 1969. San Francisco cab driver Paul Stine picked up a fare in the city's upscale Presidio Heights neighborhood. The rider asked to go a few blocks. When they arrived, the passenger shot Stine in the head and calmly wiped the cab down before walking away with a piece of the man's shirt. 3 teenagers witnessed it from their window and called the police, describing a man in his late 30s to early 40s, stocky, with short brown hair and glasses. Officers even saw a man matching that description walking nearby, but were told to look for a black suspect, due to a dispatcher's error. They let him go. Later, the Zodiac mailed in a blood-stained piece of Paul Stine's shirt, proving he was the killer. He taunted police for missing him. "I was walking down the hill to the park. The cops pulled a goof." That mistake, letting the Zodiac walk away, may have been the closest the world ever got to unmasking him. A face was finally sketched. But it wasn't enough. No name. No arrest. Just a smirk from the shadows and more bodies behind him. By the early 1970s, the Zodiac had become a national obsession. The FBI, local law enforcement, and amateur sleuths were all chasing ghosts. But despite dozens of tips and hundreds of interviews, no one could catch him. And then he went quiet. The final confirmed Zodiac letter arrived in 1974, after which he seemed to vanish. The killings stopped, or at least the ones he claimed credit for. Investigators were left with a trail of riddles, fear, and one haunting question. Who was he? Over the decades, several suspects emerged, some more convincing than others. But one name stood above the rest: Arthur Lee Allen. Allen was a former schoolteacher, dishonorably discharged and later convicted of child molestation. He owned a Zodiac brand wristwatch, featuring the same crosshair symbol used in the killer's letters. He lived near the Vallejo murders and was described by some acquaintances as violent and unstable. He even told a friend, "I'd like to kill people and use a code name like Zodiac." Police searched his home. They found knives, cryptic writings, even dead animals preserved in jars. But there was a problem: no hard evidence. Handwriting experts said his script didn't match. DNA from one of the Zodiac's stamps didn't match either. Allen died in 1992, never charged. Other suspects came and went: Rick Marshall, a reclusive projectionist; Lawrence Kane, whose behavior matched the Zodiac's psychological profile; even Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was considered briefly. But all lacked proof. In 2021, a group of independent investigators called the Case Breakers claimed the Zodiac was Gary Francis Post, a house painter and Air Force veteran who died in 2018. They pointed to scars, cryptic evidence, and forensic links. The FBI acknowledged the claim, but didn't confirm it. In their words, "The Zodiac case remains open and unsolved. Every year, new theories surface. Amateur codebreakers on Reddit, YouTubers, ex-cops, they all take their shot. Some believe the Zodiac died. Others think he was institutionalized. Some say he's still out there watching from the shadows." But despite the decades of scrutiny, the Zodiac remains what he always was: a phantom, a puzzle, a man who wanted the world to know him, but not find him. And perhaps, in his mind, that was the final victory. The Zodiac Killer was more than just a murderer. He was a myth in real time, shaping his own legend as it unfolded. Decades have passed. Cities have changed. Newspapers have faded. But the fear he planted remains, rooted in uncertainty. Because what terrifies people most isn't just violence, it's the unknown. He became America's greatest unsolved mystery, a symbol of how evil can wear an ordinary face, walk beside us, and never be caught. His name appears in music lyrics, films, documentaries, books, and podcasts. He inspired scenes in Dirty Harry, obsessed directors like David Fincher in Zodiac 2007, and haunted the minds of millions who grew up under his shadow. But his legacy isn't just pop culture, it's personal. Survivors like Mike Mageau and Brian Hartnell lived with scars both seen and unseen. Families of victims were left with questions that time never answered. And every time a new letter surfaced or a cipher was decoded, old wounds reopened. In 2020, a trio of amateur codebreakers finally cracked the infamous 340-character cipher, which had puzzled experts for over 50 years. The decoded message? "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner." Even in code, he mocked death. He taunted from the grave. And still, no name. The Zodiac taught law enforcement a brutal lesson. Not every killer wants to be caught. Some want something deeper: attention, legacy, control. In many ways, the Zodiac was ahead of his time. A media-savvy manipulator who weaponized public fear and left behind a digital age crime before the digital age even began. Today, the case remains officially open at the San Francisco Police Department. There are fingerprints, partial DNA, and still unsolved ciphers. But no one knows if the Zodiac is dead, incarcerated, or still walking among us, reading about himself in the papers, watching documentaries, smiling at his silence. And that's the real horror. Not that he killed, but that he vanished. A whisper behind a locked door. A cipher with no solution. A face we may have passed in a crowd. This is the Zodiac speaking, and no one ever answered. History doesn't repeat itself, but it whispers, quietly, patiently, waiting for us to forget. If this story made you think, feel, or question, then like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more forbidden chapters they never taught you in school. Because the past isn't dead, it's just buried. And we're here to dig it up.